Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. There is no turning back now. Allow me to apologize, I'm contracted a nasty cold, so my voice is a little bit nasal. I'm excited beyond imagination to share this review with you today about the X Plus gigantic Ezhobi Omega Beast Shin Godzilla Kamakura landing translucent red version. That's a mouthful. Now, before we start with the review, I just would like to say how much I love the film Shin Godzilla 2016. As an honest confession, I also must add that when I first watched the film, most of it went way over my head and I didn't understand the underlying meanings and references that webbed the movie extensively. But certainly, it scared the living hell out of me. In fact, it was the first Godzilla film I have ever watched that terrified me completely. The creature is so weird, disgusting and repulsive. He appears in three forms that we can see in the film. There is the first form we don't really see, just the tail end of it appearing out of the water for a moment. And I also admit that when I first saw the fourth form that is presented here, I actually didn't like the design. It's just so unconventional and off-putting that my mind just couldn't place it or reconcile with it. But then I watched the film a couple of times, and not only did I begin to discover the small nuances, references and complexities of the story, but also recognized what an incredible design this Godzilla really has. The slow-moving, Lovecraftian, eldritch nightmare emerges from the depths to destroy our world. Needless to say, this is my absolute favorite Godzilla film, even post-Godzilla -1, which I also really love as well, but Shin is still the king, maybe apart from the first incarnation. You connect Lovecraft and Godzilla and I'm sold. I fully understand that it might not be everyone's cup of tea because of how political and satirical the film is, but I guarantee that you will have at least an unusual time with it. Honestly, if you haven't watched Shin Godzilla yet, I implore you to do so. Anyway, as my obsession grew with this film and other Godzilla films, particularly with the Heisei era of films, I knew that I had to have a Shin figure, and so I went down the rabbit hole. However, acquiring a figure like this is not an easy feat. Any Godzilla collector knows this. Well, since the success of Godzilla -1, it's easier to get Godzilla merchandise. Even major companies like Sideshow began to distribute X Plus, Yuji Sakai Godzilla figures and such. Still, the fanbase for Godzilla is so huge that they sell out in a relatively short time. Also, X Plus, gigantic range of figures, Ezhobi's Omega Beast line, or anything from Kyoto, we're gonna talk about Kyoto later by the way, rarely reaches Europe or the UK. These companies' major focus is mainly the Japanese, Asian and the American markets. They also don't excessively advertise their products, so learning about them is quite challenging. And many times by the time you hear about a new release, it might be already out and selling like cupcakes. Long story cut short, I started monitoring the market for Shin, but it was a daunting task, as the one I really wanted, the more stoic gigantic X Plus Shin Godzilla, was long sold out back then, and the secondary prices are beyond a joke. Then there was the one that Kyoto released right after the film came out, and what makes the Kyoto release real special is the fact that it's basically a copy of the pre-production maquette that was sculpted by legendary sculptor and designer Takayuki Takaya, and that also is incredibly expensive since then. Then Ezhobi a year ago released the Omega Beast giant-sized attack Shin that has the mouth open and the lower jaw split. I loved it, but I wasn't convinced, and besides, I had no time to think anyway because the piece sold out in a few hours. Nonetheless, I knew what I wanted. stoic, silent pain Shin Godzilla that captures the moment of him marching through Japan with the hands facing the skies. And then Ezhobi announced their next Omega Beast, and I knew that my moment has arrived. I needed this thing, and I jumped. However, bringing the piece here was no cheap feat. Shipping is an extortion these days, and in this case not a little bit, because of the Japanese put the box in a box in a box. And VAT was also fun. It's just madness. But dear Lord, he is magnificent. I received the piece last week, and I gotta admit, there were a few times in my collecting life when I took something out of the box and the first thing that I felt wasn't happiness, but I was kind of taken aback. Because the piece, as you can see, my dear ladies and gentlemen, is absolutely massive. I was like, where am I gonna put this thing? My fiancée sees this in the morning and she's gonna have a seizure. But thankfully I'm a lucky man and she accepts me the way I am with all the insanity, so that wasn't really a problem. Yet I must say the piece is not for our miniature life in England. As you can clearly see here, I had trouble to set him up for this review, as he is as big as my drawing table and is just too big for my lamps to light it nicely. The figure is around 32 centimeters wide, 63 centimeters tall, with the end of the tail being the highest point, and around 58 centimeters with the body, and around 105 centimeters long. Yeah, it's big. And finally we began our closer inspection, and I just really want to point out here, one of my favorite features of the sculpture here is that you guys can see how it stands and how the flesh protruding on the toes, showing the enormous weight he has to carry. I just really love that little detail there. It's incredibly detailed, by the way. They really didn't miss a thing. It's just beautiful. Another important thing to mention is that my Shin came in an X Plus box, and I also didn't receive the Godzilla Spore with it, which I was a bit disappointed about, I'm not gonna lie. So what I understand from Jason at Awesome Collector, and feel free to correct me in the comments, is that this piece is a collaboration between X Plus and Ezhobi. Now the piece was produced by Ezhobi and sculpted by Kay and Lin, but X Plus purchased the batch and they distributed those. Even though I have ordered the Ezhobi one with the Spore, but that somehow converted to the X Plus one, and you see, this is what I'm talking about when I say you don't even know what's happening with these companies or how they manage the distribution and the release of their products. Nonetheless, I'm super happy with the release. I could not be more excited about this piece. It's massive, perfect, beautiful. The details are insane. It literally looks like it came out of the film. In fact, it's more movie accurate than the Kyoto release, as that was a pre-production maquette, and the proportions on that differ from the film a bit because they were still designing the creature in the process. It's also semi-translucent, and the inside of the figure is painted with a specific iridescent red color that when light hits it from some angles make the figure look like it glows from the inside. It's outrageously gorgeous. It expresses the horror of this mutated, walking Lovecraftian tumor so eloquently and authentically like no other. I just keep staring at it for days. And as we continue looking at the details on the tail here, I'm pointing out basically where the assembly points are for the figure. The figure came in 3 pieces, the main body, the midsection of the tail, and the end of the tail. The legendary end of the tail with the mutated face, which is, I think, just so horrific and repulsive. I absolutely love it. What an idea. And by the way, may I say that, just want to share, and I don't want to spoil the film for anyone here, so if you haven't seen the film, you probably skip this part here. Yeah, that's my hand next to the tail. It's huge. Anyway, so there are theories that is either coming from the Art of Shin Godzilla book, which I also have, or it was a fan theory, I'm not entirely sure, that Goro Maki, the scientist who discovered the creature that was feeding on the radioactive material beneath the sea, fed himself to the creature because of the pain he felt of losing his wife to radiation sickness. And basically, that's why there is a face at the end of the tail, because so basically Goro Maki helped Godzilla to mutate itself. That's why it came ashore, and Goro Maki is leaving the body on the other side, so it's trying to come out at the end of the tail, basically. I can show you pictures from the Art of Godzilla that there is a human skull embedded in that mutated face at the end of the tail. However, as you guys can see, I'm trying to show you here, it's very, very hard to photograph this thing. You can't see it in the camera, that how beautiful the glowing effect is. So when you shoot it with light, it really looks like it's glowing from the inside. There are some points there you can a little bit see it. Yeah, there are some like inner highlights. It's almost like lava that is hardening. And the face. I only wish that my camera could pick up the insane amount of detail they packed in just the head of this thing. And can you imagine, guys, so I attempted to open his mouth a little bit wider after this video was shot, because it was just too closed, and I like it, I love it, don't get me wrong, but in the film it was a little bit more ajar, and I wanted to replicate that look. And when I used a hairdryer, I heated up the neck a little bit and then put something in the mouth just to keep it like that for a couple of days. And then I shone a light inside. The amount of detail inside the mouth, which they perfectly recreated from the film, stuff that you don't even see, and the rows of teeth. The attention to detail, it's just... I mean, just look at this thing and imagine that something like this marches out from the sea and it cannot be stopped. And yeah, this is the moment where I flip the figure. Obviously I can't put it on a lazy Susan and just turn it around for you guys, because so you must know that if you order this figure or you wanna hunt it down, this piece is a shelf hog, and if you don't have the space, you can find yourself in a very uncomfortable situation. Now, I was even... I mean, check this out. I'm sorry, guys, that the detail on this, the nails protruding out of the skin, the madness of nature, the chaotic genetics that set loose within this creature, who, by the way, possesses a completely new material within its body. And once again, I don't mean to ruin the film for anyone. I hope I'm not. Just, yeah, I'm super excited about this film, and this is just incredible. Look at the arms, those sculptural nuances and these gorgeous details. And actually, from this angle, you can pick up more on the glowing effect that is coming from the inside. And then the teeth grow so irregularly, coming out from all places, so jagged. And what's crazy about this design, as I previously mentioned, that you know, I didn't like it at the beginning, and it's genius. I mean, it's so when you take all the details away, and for example hit the figure with light from above, then the major forms, so like the main forms, really reminding me of this Japanese ink art where it's just gestures, and I feel that really what this tries to replicate, in fact. And then you add the details, and you get this mutated eldritch nightmare that is unstoppable. It's constantly in pain, and it wants to destroy our world, and it doesn't feel anything apart from pain and maybe anger and disappointment. Writer-director Hideaki Anno, who wrote the screenplay and was one of the directors on the film, is struggling with depression, and it's a well-known fact, and he tried to integrate his illness into the story and use the Godzilla creature as a representation of that all-destructive, negative energy that one can get buried under when they have the wave coming upon them. And here, as we just going through the details of the tail and another angle of this nightmarish, crazy, insane utero baby thing is just you see the translucency here really shows itself and makes it even more intense. I wish you could guys see really on the video when it comes to the eyes, and the paint is, I would not touch this whatsoever. There is nothing needs to be done to this figure. And what's crazy is that, you know, like, we keep ordering from major companies, and you know, I don't mean to throw anyone under the bus or, you know, badmouth anyone here, but it can happen that you remove something from the box and it's not perfect, it's broken, you know, the paint is not there, etc. And while someone can bring it up in an argument that the paint application on this one is not highly complex, I mean, it's just the iridescent red and some black and charcoal and everything, I fully admit it, sure, but then you go to the tail and also the head, the face, and you take a look at the eye, and it's just razor sharp. It's perfect. There were no problems, no issues with the figure. I personally think it worth every penny, and I've been really waiting for this moment for a very long time. I really wanted to have a Shin Godzilla that represents this character in my collection. I once again gonna say that maybe I didn't think it through. I knew it's going to be big. I made a mistake of not doing measurements, and as I previously mentioned, it was a real shock when I removed him. Oh, look at that, my god. You can see the eye here. I wish I could focus on it. Yeah, it's razor sharp, guys, and so I'm sure that they use some kind of dry brushing on the high points, so you can see the inside but it's just so beautifully done. Honestly, the camera does not do justice, and I'm not just saying it, you know, to try to talk anyone into getting these. It's just magnificent. And here it is with a 1/35 scale Tyrannosaurus Rex maquette from Evolutio. You know, Mr. T-Rex was featured on this before, this channel. That's a 1/35 scale T-Rex, so it's like, what can I say, like, it's pretty much as big as a non-Mu T-Rex, I would say, and you really get a scope of the size here. I mean, people, it's 105 centimeters long. And I think I'm gonna insert a picture here somewhere, so just I can show you guys that basically where he resides now. I found a place. It's not completely fitting, is behind my bookshelf on the other side of my studio, but I needed to put him somewhere. I was considering displaying him without the tail, I will be honest with you, and then I could save some space, but I just wouldn't like that, and you know, that's not how he's supposed to be displayed, and I would afraid that it's unstable. However, I'm really hoping that you guys enjoyed this review. As I said before, I'm definitely on the fence. I'm already looking for other, you know, Godzilla figures, and it's but I gotta stop now a little bit. I mean, I have no more space, but I'm just so incredibly happy that I got this finally, and what a masterpiece. I mean, if you guys have the opportunity to invest into one of these pieces, I'm not saying you should. If you love the film and you're a fan of this character, to me it's definitely my favorite representation or incarnation of the character, and thank you so much for being here with me, and see you at the next one.